Hey, good morning, everyone. Darin Marques. We are here with the Darin Marques Show today. I've got a special guest, Rich Robledo. Rich, welcome.
Thank you, Darin. I'm glad I'm special.
Yeah, you are very special, man. So Rich is one of our agents here at Virtue, and Rich has got a ton of experience in the real estate space and business in general. And so I wanted to get Rich on here today because I thought it was really important to not only share experiences in real estate, but also in business, because I think that applies to our real estate business, right?
Yeah.
Just things that happen in business on a daily basis. So Rich, let's start off. I always like to start off by giving everybody a little bit of background on you and talk about who you are. So tell us, man, where are you from? What got you here to Vegas? Give us a little bit of background.
So the Air Force brought me here in 1993.
Okay.
I got out in 97 and fell in love with the city. So I've been here since 93. Got into real estate in 2002. After I bought my second property from a friend of mine who was in the service with me, but was also in the real estate business, did it on the side. And he told me, he goes, hey, you should kind of think about doing real estate. And I said, Mike, I'm buying my second home. I'm doing all right. And
yeah.
I said, why would you want me to do real estate? And he said, people like you. I do well and nobody likes me. So I could see you doing really well. And
that's a key thing in real estate. People got to like you, but
people have to.
But
like
that proves that you can actually do well even if people don't like you,
right? And another takeaway was, is having people around you that see something in you that you don't see in yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So I was doing well. I was working for the cable company at the time. I had a mobile detail company. I was doing nightclub promotions. So I was.
You had a few things going. You're a bit of an entrepreneur.
Yeah. I was always doing something, right? And then Mike said, I promise you, if you saw real estate, you would do more with real estate than those other three things. And I walked into the real estate or into my sales office at Cox, and I told my supervisor, I said, it was Lisa Esquino at the time. And I said, hey, I think I'm going to do real estate. And she said, yeah, I don't know if you can
like
do
everybody
it.
else, right?
Yeah. She's like, I tried and I couldn't do it, so I don't know if you could do it. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Thanks for the vote of confidence.
That's noted. And then I walked in to the director of the sales group at Prime Cable, and I said, Al, I think I want to do real estate. And he was standing up when I walked into his office, and he was somewhat dismissive of me. And he goes, well, Rich, everybody tries to do real estate. And mentally, I went back to my desk, and I told myself, I'm going to do real estate just to prove these two wrong.
That's awesome, man.
And I got a funny story about that director. Fast forward 10 years, I am leaving a black tie event at the Venetian, and I walk up to valet with my wife, and I'm going to get my car, and I see Al. And I looked at him and I smiled, and his girlfriend at the time was a real estate agent.
Okay.
And I walked up to him and I said, Al, how are you? And he goes, how are you doing? And his girlfriend knew who I was.
Yeah.
Right? And she goes, how do you know Rich?
Yeah.
And I just kind of smiled and have a great day. I said, what are you doing now? Because he was no longer at the cable company because he lost his job and he started something else. And I remember getting in the car and my wife goes, why do you have to be an asshole? It's a gift for some of us.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to just poke back, right?
You just got to remind them.
For the people who told you can't do it, sometimes you got to just poke back.
You just got to remind them in a nice subtle way.
Yeah. So what brokerage did you start at back then?
I started at Coldwell Banker Wardley.
Okay.
And then when I decided to go into real estate full time, I figured out that I was looking for a mentor, somebody to work under at that time. So I interviewed with J.C. Melvin at Century 21 Money World and Bob Hamrick.
Okay.
Two incredible guys I still consider friends today.
Yeah.
Right? And I look at J.C. Melvin kind of like Phil Jackson.
Okay.
And I looked at Bob Hamrick kind of like Pat Riley.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought you were going to say Pat Riley. They just kind of seemed like
those two, right?
Yeah.
And at that period in my time, at that, I was a little arrogant, right?
Yeah.
And I figured that I wasn't ready to learn under Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
So I went with Bob Hamrick and learned the Pat Riley way.
Nice,
right?
man.
And it's kind of funny now. I see myself more as a coach like Phil Jackson with a splash of Pat, not all Pat with a splash of Phil.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what were your first few years in real estate like? Was it as easy as everybody said it was going to be? I'm kidding about that, by the way.
Yeah, no. It was a struggle,
Yeah.
right? Leaving the sales industry in cable sales, where I had I had an area, right, and I had those relationships too.
And so you were doing sales at Prime Cable as well. That's what you were. So you'd already had
Correct.
some sales experience at that point. And,
Yeah. So in the Air Force, I worked on the F-15s. So
Okay.
everything with electronics, I worked on, and
Okay.
I was absolutely incredible at it.
Yeah.
But I figured out that I absolutely hated it,
Yeah.
even though I had a natural aptitude for that series of work, right, with the diagnostics. I hated being by myself.
Yeah.
So they would put me in the hangar for a month to 2 months at a time, diagnosing video, audio, or attack package issues, right? And I had the most fun when I was working at the snack bar. But the only guys
Talking
that
to
worked,
people?
yeah, the only guys who worked at the snack bar were the guys that were in trouble.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Rich, you got to go work." I'm like, "Man, I don't want to work. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be back there.
Want
Like,
to hang out, talk to people, BS. Yeah.
why can't I be like him?" And they're
Yeah.
like, "Because he doesn't know what he's doing."
Yeah.
You know what you're doing,
Yeah.
so go do your job.
Yeah.
So I was doing sales at Prime, and then got in their general real estate, and they just tell you this is what you do. And I
Yeah.
remember Cameron Kilday, consider him a friend. What I do? He goes, at the time he had the phone books. He goes, I just started calling people on the phone book.
Interesting.
Right? You have to generate. That
Yeah,
is
yeah.
our job
Yeah.
as agents. It's not about content. It's not about doing anything second to generating.
It's funny you say that. I was just talking to an agent the other day. He sent me he posted a sales book that he was reading, and it was like Zig Ziglar or one of them. I can't remember exactly who it was that he'd posted about. And I said, man, it's so smart that you're doing that. I said, I see so many agents, everybody now, they follow all these coaches, they follow all these real estate experts, and everything's all about like, marketing and video marketing and social media and all that stuff, which is great because obviously it builds your brand. But I think the one thing that most of them forget about is you're in sales, and you've got to be able to convert people, and you've got to close people. And that's the one thing I never really see being taught in real estate. And that's why it's always great to have a sales experience in other backgrounds or other industries, because most of those other industries do teach you closing and conversion. That's more what they're focused on more than the marketing, because they've got marketing departments, they handle the marketing and stuff for you. You know, what is one of the things, like when you get a new agent started with you, having that experience, starting on your own, you're now in the business 22 years. What is one of the key things that you always do with a new agent who's starting out with their business to get them kind of on the right path?
I kind of want to ask them, why are you in real estate, right? And if they say, well, I want to control my schedule, then I kind of...
Or I love looking at beautiful homes online.
Yeah, it's like...
That's the one I hear all the time.
It is nothing like that,
Yeah,
right? My
yeah.
first coach told me, he goes, be prepared to work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
He goes, be prepared to work 6 months at a time without a day off, so that you know that you can plan a weekend for yourself to get away.
Yeah.
Give yourself a goal after you've been successful at your action plan.
Yeah.
Don't give yourself a vacation when you've done absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of figuring out what drives you, what creates that prey in you to go hunt. Right? I think everybody's capable of being incredible.
Yeah.
But if you're okay with being average, then I'm going to respect your right to be average.
Yeah. Yep. And maybe it's not with you. Maybe
Correct.
somewhere else.
Right?
Well, I think one of the things that Anthony Robbins talks about years ago, I remember this, is that, and I think this is the one thing, agents will a lot of times will reward themselves all the time, but he talked about associating wins with reward, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that every win, or you've got a goal, you're focused on it, you tie that to a reward, and then you reward yourself for that.
Correct.
Versus where a lot of them reward themselves constantly for everything. And I think this is an industry that at least in my opinion, man, from any other sales industry I've ever been in, it rides high on praise. Like, everybody needs praise. They need their certificates. They need their, to be noted that they're the 189th agent out of 22,000 agents, and everybody makes sure they specify that. It's a funny industry in that way. 2002, you were with Coldwell Banker.
Correct.
Move forward. How long were you with Coldwell Banker?
A year.
A year?
Yep. 2003 went to Realty Executives.
Okay.
2004 opened up my first office with a partner.
Okay, so you opened up your own brokerage back in 2004?
Correct.
Okay.
I always figured out that I am not a corporate guy.
Yeah.
Right? I figured out that I kind of want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
I'm not a suit guy,
Yeah.
right? I'm a t-shirt, polo
Yeah.
type guy. Business is relationship. And
Just so you guys know, he gave me a hard time this morning. He said, dude, I thought you were going to wear a suit for our interview this morning. I'm like, bro, you know I don't even own a suit. So, I might have one.
I thought I was special, but
You are. I wore my nicest black shirt, dude.
yeah, so opened up my first brokerage in 2004, man, and then 2006 came. I had an office here, and we had 3 in Miami.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Specializing in high rises.
Oh, nice.
So that was the first submarket to crash.
Yeah.
In 2006, between 2007, 2008,
What was the name of your brokerage that you had in 2006?
the condo company.
The condo company. Okay. Oh, so you guys were all focused on high rise, even here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so we saw what was happening in Miami. We were able to flip contracts.
Okay.
So we were one of the few groups that was able to flip contracts. So you get somebody in at this price. As the pricing went up, you're able to resell that contract. So your original guy would make some money. You get your...
And then 2007 came.
2006 is when it started.
Was when you started. Okay.
2006, so it was 2 years of excess. And then 2006, you started to see the cranes come down. The Manhattanization of Vegas was no longer being talked about, the Manhattanization of Vegas.
So tell us, because I think this is probably an important thing. You know, everybody always sees the highlights, right? When people are doing really well, but they never see the low points and the struggles that people go through.
Yeah.
What was it like 2007, 2008, 2009, those years for you? Which, looking back now, it doesn't really sound like a long time.
Yeah.
A couple years, like,
Yeah.
oh man, that was probably easy. But when you're living in that 3-year period, it probably feels like decades. So share some stories with us back then. I mean, how did you keep your business going?
I didn't.
You didn't?
I shuttered it, man. I had. I remember showing a property in the Las Vegas Country Club, and I was reading the business section, and Jimmy Dake had just filed bankruptcy for Money World, and he was the most successful Century 21 franchisee in the U.S. And
Wow.
I remember for a moment feeling just a little bit better because I wasn't the only one. Because nobody was talking about it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
2008 to 2009, I had 7 friends and associates commit suicide. The lessons were no longer attachment to things.
Yeah.
Things can be taken.
Yeah.
Right? So it was that little period of time where I had to find to be happy with myself. I've been blessed to always have older guys look out for me. And I remember Ronaldo Taberti sitting down and we're going through a budget. And he sits down and he tells me, he goes, Rich, what's the one thing you can control? And I said, what? He goes, your fixed costs. What are your fixed costs? Don't outspend what you're bringing in and save for that rainy day.
Yeah.
So when you've got Ronaldo Taberti sitting across the desk from you, do it a budget, because everybody was feeling it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that was the lesson, man, was I was no longer attached to things. Finding joy in the simple things.
Yeah.
Right? And then I met my wife at the end of 2008. So I was able to travel, courted her for 2 years before we got married.
How was your business doing during that time? Were you still surviving? Did you have to work another job?
Yeah,
What was,
No. I was still surviving. At the end of 2010, I looked at the REO business and the traditional business I was doing, and I made more off of the traditional business than I'd made off of the REO business.
So you were doing you started doing REO business within that time,
Yeah.
from 2007, 8, 9. Okay.
Yeah. So then you looked at the cost, because at that time we were paying for the HOAs, right? We had to pay for a lot of stuff up front, and I'm like, I'm tired of doing that. So I just started doing my own thing. Got married in 2011, opened Acclaim Real Estate in 2012.
Nice, man. Nice. What do you think about it was for you personally? Because obviously a lot of people got out of real estate at that time. People saw the struggle. What was it for you personally that kept you going in the business when it was tough? Because it's funny, last year, end of 2022, 2023, when all the newer agents, you would hear from them, the world was falling apart,
Yeah.
and everybody kept referencing this is like 2008 and 2009, and I'm like, no, dude, it's not anything like 2008 and 2009, because if you were around during that time, like you just shared, I mean, I knew many people as well that, dude, I mean, it was a very depressing time, because there were people killing themselves, and there were people I was watching clients who were incredibly wealthy, or at one time, who just through circumstances and through the market had begun to lose everything, and you would watch these people who were just these powerful people that you had admired that just started to crumble and fall apart, and some of them did commit suicide, and some of them just got completely out of the industry and they moved out of the town. What was the one thing that for you that kept you going through that tough time to not give up?
Two things. I remember talking to a friend of mine who was living in Park City, and we were talking about business, and he called me up, and I thought about getting a job. And he asked me, he goes, Rich, why did you get into real estate? And I said, well, I got into real estate to help people. And he goes, don't lie. I said, what do you mean? He goes, why did you get into real estate? I said, to make a lot of money. And he goes, all right. He goes, are people still making money today?
Yeah.
I said, no. He goes, are people still making money? And I said, yeah, there are a couple. He goes, so if people are still making money and your why is to make money, why would you get out? He goes, you now have a PhD in what not to do with real estate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all the lessons you've learned are for nothing if you don't apply them the second time.
Yeah.
And he goes, if you did it once and you can't repeat it, you just got lucky.
Yeah.
That was, timing-wise, a great lesson. And then there's a proverb, and I'm going to mess it up, right? This guy said...
We won't hold you to it then, man.
Don't hold me to it. And I don't know if it's, I've been broke, but I've never been poor, right? Broke is a period in time, and poor is a mindset.
Yeah.
Right? So just keep pushing.
Brings me back to just thinking about, in general, how agents treat their business.
Yeah.
I think that everybody forgets, and even a couple of years ago when we went through the downturn, the biggest thing is I think people forget is that I remember reading this in Think and Grow Rich, and it's what got me into not just real estate, but luxury real estate, because at that time when I read that book, I was like, oh man, there's one thing about wealthy people. When times are good, right, they sell, and when times are bad, they buy opportunities. And so it's one thing I always share with the team, with the agents. I'm like, dude, there's never a bad time, right? There's shifts in the market, and if you've been in sales long enough, it doesn't matter what sales industry you're in, whether it's real estate or cable sales or selling protein bars or whatever it is, you're always gonna have your cycles through those markets, and you're gonna have your ups and downs. You're gonna have your competition, right? Things are gonna shift. If you're in the cable industry, satellite came out. Now you're competing with a whole different industry that you got to try to compete with. And so, but I think but there's always those people who survive, and there's always those people that do well. And I think the one thing that I've always seen consistently with successful people is that during those tough times, they seek new opportunity. They find those opportunities, and they really have kind of a prospector or pioneer mindset, where they mine for the gold.
Correct.
Right? Everybody else is looking at it and they just see dirt. The pioneer is that person who's shuffling through that dirt, and they find those golden nuggets.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's a great thing to share with people, that getting through those times, it's really important, one, to stay focused, and then again is look for the opportunities during those times.
Well, it's the same thing I tell agents now. I tell them now, I would get into the industry now, because this is the biggest disruption we've had.
Yeah. I think that's a mistake with most, is they get in when the market's good, and they start at the top, and then they go down, and it's a very difficult thing to deal with, because they're like, hold on, man, I thought 2 years ago I was a great salesperson, and I haven't sold anything in 6 months. Yeah,
chaos creates opportunities.
Exactly. I think I've shared with you, I got in purposely in 2008, and everybody thought I was crazy. They're like, dude, what the hell are you doing getting in the real estate now? And I'm like, oh, this is the best time to start. And they're
This is it.
I'm like, that's like buying stock when it's low, right? Like, I'm gonna ride it up to the top. And then honestly, everything from here will always seem easy. I mean, last year, even during COVID, none of it seemed really difficult, because again, it was about pivoting and looking for other opportunities and knowing that we'll get through it. I always think back of like that 2008, 2009, 2010 period. I remember once we got through it, looking back and thinking, wow, that actually wasn't that bad, dude. So...
The period of reflection.
The period of reflection.
Wasn't that bad. I want another opportunity for a crisis so I could do it again.
Exactly. So let's share with agents and for anyone watching, over the years, as you've built your business, you opened your own brokerage, what has been some of the main practices that you've used for yourself to capture new business and grow your business? And I think you and I are a lot alike in this way. I don't think either one of us are really cold callers. I mean, we'll do it if we need to. We know how to do it. But I think you and I have both discovered that the easiest way of doing business is through relationships.
Yeah.
So share some of that with us. What is kind of your basis or your business model now, and how you grow your business?
I'm not going to give the audience the secret sauce.
Just give them like a
broad overview.
A broad overview. Yeah.
So I had a coach.
No details.
I had a great coach, and she told me, she goes, listen, if people ran their personal life like their business, both would flourish.
Yeah.
She goes, so make a decision as to who you want to work with. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? She goes, well, you made a decision as to who your wife partner was going to be, right? And I had 5 characteristics I wanted in a wife: athletic, small town attitude, spiritual, her own group of friends, and self-supporting. So I tell my agents, who's your ideal client? My ideal client is typically on their 2nd or 3rd marriage, drives a 6-figure car, owns a 7 to 8-figure home, is into philanthropy, golf, sports, and education.
Now that's an interesting. Why their 2nd or 3rd marriage?
It's just typically who my clients are.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and it's just after 20 years of dealing with people, they're typically, and it's leaning to 3rd right now, right?
Yeah.
Like they've got multiple wives, and I think sometimes when you're starting off in business, because they're all successful, they're entrepreneurs and business owners, that first wife doesn't want to put up with the amount of effort and work it takes. Everybody wants the trophy, nobody wants to practice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's why, I remember dating people, and it's Sunday morning, I'm going to the gym. Well, could you really not go on Sunday? Could we go eat breakfast?
Yeah.
And then stay in bed out of guilt.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, no, I love going to the gym, and that is something that I'm going to do. That is primary for me. So, 2nd or 3rd marriage.
And that's an area where we've connected as well. Let's talk about that. So the gym. I think, I talk to people about this all the time. I think fitness is an essential part of success. I think it should be a part of anyone's business plan. No different than anything else that they do in their business to make themselves better, right? Most people read, they take classes, they do that type of stuff. But most people forget that I think the physical aspect of your business is just as important. You've got to be able to have the energy, and you've got to be able to keep your stress levels low and that type of stuff. I know that's one of the ways that you and I connected. And share with us, like, how do you relate that to your business? How do you relate fitness to your business?
Consumption, right? I think it all starts first mentally, right? I think discipline starts first with diet.
Yeah.
Right? And that's, stoicism, right? What can I control? I can only control what I can consume through diet, through media, through relationships I have, and what I allow to enter my space, right? And then secondary is effort through sports, right? Seneca had a great quote. He goes, I feel sorry for the man who's never tested himself for dying for never knowing what his true potential is. So that was something, when I decided to that next stage of my career to close my office down, and that was one of the things that attracted me about you. You get up in the morning, you work out, you're a go-getter, you're somewhat aggressive. Not a lot of people,
See, thank you for saying that. I'm somewhat aggressive.
Yeah.
Some
somewhat
people think
aggressive.
I'm really aggressive.
Yeah, somewhat aggressive. I think you got a couple more degrees, right? So I think it all starts for fitness. I think it's extremely. I just read a statistic that 50% of our children are overweight.
Yeah.
And you look at the models that we give people, right? Your kids and even our sales agents are going to see what we do and say, well, he's not cold calling, I'm not going to cold call.
Yeah.
But then when you have events, and I call it second shift, I'm up at 5:30, so I believe you need to figure out some way to generate business before you go to work, while you're at work, and then in the evening.
Yeah.
And I'll tell my agents, I said, I'm married, I sit on 2 boards, I have 2 other businesses, I have 2 kids.
Yeah.
And I go to sleep at night wondering what else I could have done.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing enough. Like I'm not doing enough. And I'll post it on social media. If I'm at a dinner or if I'm at one of my events where I'm networking, I call that second shift.
And I think that, like, being a business athlete, is the way I think about it. I think that, one, like for me, I know when I'm running in the morning, that 30 minutes while I'm running, I'm in my head, I'm listening to a book. I am working at that point. I'm already working because as I'm running, I'm thinking about my business. What am I going to do differently today? Who am I going after? How am I going to handle a certain thing, right? And I think it's also important to think, man, you think years back, guys would grow these businesses over years, and then by the time they retired, dude, they were so unhealthy, they couldn't do anything. And most of them would end up dying. And I think, like, that's the thing for me that I look for. I'm like, dude, by the time I retire, I want to be healthy so that I can go and enjoy it, right? And be fit. But I also find, and I'm sure you've experienced this, is that, real estate can obviously be a very stressful industry. I think traditionally the way that most of us are taught in this industry is that, you go work all day long and then 4 o'clock you take off and you go to the bar and you have some drinks with all your other real estate agent friends and you have a couple cocktails and you do that daily, and that's how you relieve the stress. But the reality is that it actually creates more stress because you wake up the next day, you don't feel good. When that tough call comes in that you've got to deal with, you don't really want to deal with it because you're not feeling great. Then you got to go drink again and it becomes really cyclical, right? It's like something that you do every day. And I think that the thing that, if some could realize how important that fitness routine is and doing it first thing in the morning, my belief in this, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm like, dude, in order for me to take care of anybody else, I got to take care of myself first thing in the morning, right?
I did a podcast and I told this kid, I can give from the cup that overflows.
Yeah.
I'm going to give to you after I've taken care of myself. And that's secondary to the family.
Yeah.
Right? If I am no benefit to myself, then I'm giving less than to my kids. One of my coaches told me, he goes, Rich, is your family getting the best of you or the rest of you? We see you out there. How are you at home?
Yeah.
So, and I have to think about that. When I get home, I have to shut off,
Got to flip the switch.
Flip the switch and say, I have to give them the best of me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the other thing. Like, I tell the agents, like, when I'm sharing with the agents, like, the importance of working out, I'm like, dude, it's not just about health, being healthy and fit. It's also about that when I show up to the office, I know I'm giving my best, and I'm my best, not just for myself, but for my clients, right? Like, to me, I look at it as like I'm an athlete I'm working for an organization, or, I play for the NFL or I play for the NBA or whatever it is. And I've got to show up and be my very best. To me, we should have that same mindset and mentality when we show up for our clients, right? Like, I want to know that when I come in at 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning, dude, I'm revved up. I've worked out. I've got my workout in. I'm feeling good. I'm like top notch. So now when somebody calls me to negotiate, they're still barely trying to get the webs out of their eyes, right?
That's it.
And I'm 110%. So I think adding that fitness component is such an important thing. And it teaches discipline. I was talking to an agent about this the other day. They did their first bodybuilding show. And I was like, oh, dude, your business is going to skyrocket after this. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, because the things that you learn in training for a show like that, you boxed, right? Yeah. The things that you learn in sports, the level of discipline, to me, I share with the agents all the time. I show them videos about Kobe and Michael Jordan and all these great athletes. And I'm like, you may wonder, like, I don't even really follow sports personally, but I follow athletes.
Correct.
Because there is a direct relation to how an athlete performs and how any top entrepreneur or salesperson performs as well.
Yeah. We both follow and read Tim Grover's books,
right?
I
love Tim Grover.
Tim Grover's favorite, one of my favorite quotes from Tim Grover, he goes, I asked Kobe, I said, Kobe, why do people think you're an asshole? You should pass it. And Kobe says, Tim, I saw him. He shows up late for practice, leaves early.
Yeah.
Why should that be rewarded?
Yeah.
Why do I trust him if he's giving me less than?
Yeah.
And he asked him, there's another one with Kobe, hey, do you talk to this guy? He goes, why would I want to talk to him? We don't believe and value the same things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I think I shared this in an email I sent out to all the agents a few weeks ago. There's one consistent habit that I've seen with every top agent. And it kind of translates the same way to sports, right? You look at the guy who's showing up before practice and after practice. Those are the Tom Bradys, those are the Kobe's. Those are the guys that do phenomenal in their business.
Yeah.
And I see real estate the same way. No matter what office I've been at, the one thing, and this is for agents who are listening, that they're thinking to themselves, hey man, I want to be the best. I want to be number one out there. If you want to be mediocre, this doesn't apply to you. So, but if you truly want to be the best, you shouldn't have to wait for anyone to tell you, hey man, you need to be here at 9 o'clock. You got to be here at such and such time, right? You should be taking that upon yourself and showing up early. And that's the one thing I've always said, even the previous office I was at, some of the agents would ask me like, man, I want to increase my business. What I got to do? And I'm like, dude, there's one thing I can tell you consistently about this office every morning. And I see the same thing here as well. You look at any of your top performers in any office, they're there every day. They're there first thing in the morning. They're there running their business. They're out there performing. The other thing is that you'll very rarely ever hear a top performer say they don't have time for something. Somehow, some way, as busy as they are, they always find time for something.
Yeah.
And it amazes me. I talk to these agents that are barely doing any production, and you invite them to coaching classes, and you invite them to these different things. Oh man, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for this. And you find that the reality is, like, I laugh when I see agents post that they've worked 14-hour days. First of all, if you're having to post that you work 14-hour days, dude, and in my opinion, that's your own like insecurity that you're really actually working. I don't ever think about posting. I don't even think about how much I work, because I don't really consider what I do working. Like, I've got a lot of freedom. I enjoy what I do. So I don't check the box of like daily, okay, well, I worked from 7 to 8:30 today. But I also, and that's 7 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. But actually, and I would be more proud to say I worked 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m.
That's it.
Right? Like, that's real success. But I think that's the one thing I always look at it's like, dude, the high performers, and that's why I always tell all of them, I'm like, dude, model yourself after someone. That's what I did. I was able to work around Ivan and Florence, and for the first couple of years when I didn't know what I was doing, I just watched exactly what they did. And people even used to say to me, man, you sound just like Ivan. I'm like, yeah.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, there's a reason. Because I watch what they're doing, and I model exactly what they're doing to a T, and then I'll develop my own character in time of who I am. But in the beginning, to me, it's pretty easy. Yeah. Just watch the top performers, watch what they're doing, and follow them, and you'll be successful. It's pretty. In my opinion, I think it's pretty simple.
And you hit on it regardless of what office, right? Because now you have agents blaming their lack of production, not themselves, on their office. And somebody called, hey, I want to come join the team. I'm like, no. You think by moving here to there that it's going to miraculously happen.
Yeah.
And I've seen what you've done consistently. It's not going to happen.
Let's touch on that for a moment. That's something interesting. I actually just did a video on this the other morning, and it's about taking responsibility for yourself and where you're at and your actions. To me, I'm of the believer that, like, anything that happens to me, it's my fault. Yeah. Like, I put myself in the position, no matter what happens, right? I put myself in that position. Obviously, you can't control everything in life. But I think that's the other thing that I've seen consistently in successful people and entrepreneurs, is that you never hear them blame other people. You'll hear them say, damn it, I made a mistake on that. Oh, damn, I screwed up on that. They recognize that. And that's, in my opinion, that's one of the biggest things I've seen that makes entrepreneurs successful, is the accepting of responsibility, even with people on their own team, right? Oh, that person screwed up. Damn, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better to fix it?
Where did I not train them correctly?
Yeah.
I spent 3 hours with the 2-star general that's in charge of Delta forces. And he goes, before every mission, they talk about what they're supposed to do, and at the end of the table, they take the photo and they develop the photo there with everybody in the room in case they don't come back.
Yeah.
And they put it on the wall. And he goes, after every mission, we come back, we debrief. He goes, this is where everybody gets to take responsibility and ownership as to what happened. Why is he not here? Who forgot? Who didn't do what they should have done?
Yeah.
Right? And here's he just turned 60, and he goes, every day is a day to get better.
Yeah.
And I was with him last night, and I told him, I'm like, that comment struck a chord with me.
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't think that we ever arrive anywhere, Rich.
Yeah. Well, you touched on coaching a little bit. Do you still work with a coach today?
No, I've got 3 mentors. I got like a board of directors of 3 guys that are
board of advisors, dude.
that are extremely successful in other industries that kind of give me, hey, how about this? What about that? Have you thought about that? So I've got 3 guys that I talk to often that run stuff by.
I think that's important, man. You know, whether you have a coach or not, I think it's so important to have some sort of advisor with your business, right? I think that's a really critical thing, and I love that you share that, because I think everyone should have those 2 or 3 mentors, those what you would consider a board of advisors, because again, you know, looking at people who are successful in what they do, that's one of the most successful traits I see in people that are highly successful, is that they've all got people that they turn to. Correct. They've got somebody who's bigger and better than them that they're striving to. And I always love when I hear an entrepreneur, dude, who's somebody who's already like wealthy, talk about their goal. Yeah. Oh, my goal is to do this, or my goal is to accomplish this. And I love to see that there's no limits, man. It's like once they get to here, then it's got to get to here. Correct. Then I got to get to here. You know, there's absolutely no limits. And I think working with mentors, I think, is one of the things that keeps you going, right? Because and I think especially for agents getting into this business, they're so focused on the percentages and, well, what's my split going to be and this type of stuff. It's like, dude, why take that away? Like your first couple of years, if you're focused solely on the percentage, I can already tell you, I will put money on it that you will fail within 2 to 3 years, and you will be out of this business because you will never in the first couple of years make the amount of money that you think that you're going to make. And when you're focused on that, you'll become frustrated and upset and discouraged because you're not getting that number, versus being more focused on who am I going to put myself around, who are the people I'm going to model myself off of, and who are the people I'm going to learn off of. You know, I think I shared with you when I started, I paid 75% to the team that I joined, and people thought I was nuts. I was excited to pay them 75% because I'm like, dude, I'm joining Harvard.
But you were a business owner.
Yeah.
You were successful before.
Yeah.
So I think that's an industry issue.
Yeah.
You have people come into our industry and they all feel like they deserve 100%. You go work at Collier's, you're 50-50.
Yeah.
And it resets every year.
Yeah.
Right? You go to a large law firm, they're going to work you.
Yeah.
And you're not going to make that money until year 7 or 10 when you bump up to a junior partner.
Yeah.
You go to a large accounting firm, they are going to work you.
Yep.
Right? People get into residential real estate feeling that they deserve to make 6 figures right out the gate, and that you owe me.
Yeah.
You're lucky to have me.
Yeah.
And you're
I had that one day. I had an agent say to me,
you haven't done anything though. Well, you don't know what I'm full of potential.
Well, that's one of the things they teach you in real estate school.
Yeah, that's what
I'm not kidding. Like, that was one of the things. I was in a class and I heard the instructor tell the agents in there, just remember that when you meet with these brokers, that you are interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you. And I thought to myself, wow, you are setting these agents up for failure because you're putting this in their head that these brokerages need them as much as the other way around. And that's not the truth. No. Like, the reality is that you are a dime a dozen in the beginning, because there's a lot of people who are getting their licenses and starting in this business. And I think that goes to any business, man. I've worked for so many companies and been in sales for all my entire life, and I've watched so many people walk into jobs thinking that they were entitled or that they deserved. And those were the people who never ended up succeeding. They would end up staying the same because they would leave because they never felt they were getting enough.
I wasn't appreciated.
Yeah, and I'm like, I've always been of the belief, dude, like, if you work hard enough, you bust your ass, and you just hustle and don't worry about what you're getting, you do it for the sole purpose of being the best, you won't have to ask anybody for a raise. You won't have to ask anybody for an increased split. You won't have to ask anybody for leads.
That's being self-driven.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody else needs the drive and the motivation from exterior.
Yeah.
Well, I need you to tell me I'm doing great. I need you to tell me.
Well, that goes back to not taking responsibility, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So if I look to the outside and I can blame everybody else around me, then I never have to look at myself in the mirror and put it on me that it's my fault of why I'm not succeeding.
Yeah.
It's everybody else around me of why I'm not succeeding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think that's the reality. Is that look at the end of the day, yes, the brokerage you join, the team you join, the people that you mentor under, it can make a major difference. But at the end of the day, like we can give you all the tools, we can give you all the advice, we can give you all of that stuff. I always share with people working in the fitness industry. I said, dude, it's so funny how much real estate is like the fitness industry. You can sit down, you can give somebody a plan, you can write it all out for them, and then the next week you'll sit down with them and say, hey, you know, how much weight have you lost? Well, I haven't lost any weight. Why? Have you been following your diet? Well, no. You know, I haven't been able to because of this or because of that. There's always excuses. And then you would look at the people who were highly successful, phenomenal athletes. Dude, they could have 20 things going on, have a full family, taking care of their kids, and they were still outperforming everyone because at the end of the day, they just took that responsibility themselves and said, look, man, nobody else is going to do this for me. I've got to do it myself.
And what does Tim Grover call that guy or girl?
A cleaner.
That's it.
Yeah.
We don't look for approval.
Yeah. Yep. It's got to be a
We
cleaner.
just do our job.
And if you guys have not listened to any one of Tim Grover's books, I would highly recommend Winning and Relentless. If you want to talk about a shift in mindset and somebody who can make you get so motivated, you literally like want to run through a wall when you're done, Tim Grover is the guy
He's
that can definitely do that. So Rich, let's as we wrap up here, man,
This is it? We're wrapping up now?
No, we're
got
still,
some more?
Yeah, we're
Let's
still
go.
talking. We're still talking.
Let's give the audience a little bit more Rich.
Yeah. So let's talk about Rich over the next the future Rich.
Yeah.
What's that look like, man? Where are you going next with your business? What's your goal? What's your focus right now?
So I always, somebody asked me the other day, right? So where is Rich in 5 years? I said, Rich in 5 years, my son will be graduating high school, right? So I tie a lot of my goals to where they are in life.
Yeah.
Right? We're still here, right? Traveling for a month at a time in the summer with the wife and the kids, going to Europe. That's it, man. Like, I'll still be doing real estate. I have some other ventures and businesses I'm doing. I would love to get more into helping newer agents, right? And helping newer business owners, right? Just getting more involved in the community. I think that
Some mentoring, some coaching.
Some mentoring stuff. Joe Rogan asked Naval during a podcast, how do you feel that your life, like how do you model it? And Naval says that there's 4 chapters. First one is sacrifice for country.
Yeah.
The second chapter is your family and your business. The third chapter is politics. And the fourth chapter is philosophy. Right? The issue nowadays is people get into politics with no sacrifice, making it their family and business, philosophizing about what they're going through. I will be in 5 years 55, and I've accomplished more than what a lot of people thought I could have ever have done. I've been in rooms, and I've been blessed to be in rooms that people look at me and they say, how did you get in here?
Yeah.
Right? So I've already exceeded everything beyond my wildest dreams, and now it's preparing my kids to do 2.0 Rich.
So what does that look like in general with your business? Is that so you're traveling more?
Traveling
that type
more,
of stuff? Yeah.
you know, production is a little bit higher, but doing more things in Scottsdale, Salt Lake City, and Newport Beach.
Starting to branch out a little bit.
Starting to branch out a little bit. I
Scale
believe,
up the
especially
business.
with the way the industry is changing, is having my top 50, and my top 50 live on the beach in Newport, have a house here in Vegas, maybe
We'll be neighbors in Newport.
maybe a home in Park City,
Yeah.
and a home in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
So the gentleman that I was talking to, who told me, Rich, why did you get into real estate? Lived in Park City, had a home in Las Vegas, and a home in Newport Beach. He goes, I live on I-15. I've got another friend in Newport Beach, and we're talking about business. He goes, you want to be just like my partner? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He makes his money in Orange County, his residency in Nevada, and raised his family in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Right? Southwest has already done the work for me.
Yeah.
I'm looking for 1-hour flights.
Yeah.
I want to be able to pick one way and come back and forth, and doing other businesses with other friends, right? Whether it's guns, events, cigars, social clubs. That's what I want to get to. I want to be a little Renaissance man.
I love it, dude.
Yeah, I don't want to be defined by that's Rich the realtor.
something I want to go back on, just because we talked about challenges and going through the market and things changing. Obviously, our market's going through a big change now. You've got a lot of experience. You sat on the board for the association for quite a long time. You've been very involved. You're very involved with the association and stuff. With the changes that are coming, obviously, a lot of people know now that there's the buyer side commission is changing. How do you see the real estate? I mean, you've been in it now for a long time. You've 22 years. There's been a lot of changes in the business. How do you see it changing over the next 5 to 10 years? What do you think will be different about real estate 10 years from now from where we're at today?
I believe that commissions are going to get compressed a little bit. I believe, and this is the audacity, where a brand new agent could go sell a house for $3 million, $5 million just through the relationship and feel that they deserve that full 3% when they're competing against me or you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that buyer's agent's going to have a buyer's presentation. What negotiation skills have you done? What value do you provide? And they're going to say, are you worth $30,000 if we're buying $1 million house?
Yeah. The reality is probably most are not.
I've told one of my agents who door knocked a house and she had a listing for 1.3. And I told her, I said, you don't deserve it.
Yeah.
And you feel entitled to it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that where's the value if you know nothing about the home? And the audacity of some people feeling that they deserve it or they earned that.
Well, that made me think about something. I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I was actually thinking about that this morning when I was thinking about, like, what are we going to be discussing? What are the things we're going to be talking about? And I think that where high-performing agents have unfortunately lost some of their value because of the low entry, which, thank God, I mean, I'll be one of these persons, I'll be somebody who says, thankfully there was a low entry point into real estate, because I was somebody at the time when I got into it, I didn't have the money, I didn't have the education. So luckily there was that low entry point. But the one thing that I share with clients that sets me apart from anyone else, is regardless of marketing or anything else, and this goes the same for you, any agent who's been in a long time, and something that cannot be replaced or learned through books or anything else, is experience.
That's it.
Right? Like, knowing, somebody was talking to me the other day and they're like, well, how do you know when to counter and this type of stuff? Because I was telling them, sometimes when you're negotiating, it's all based off of emotions, right? And you've got to be able to read those emotions, and you've got to be able to know when to respond. Sometimes you're going to string it out a little bit longer. You're going to do those different things. And they're like, well, how do I know when to do that? And I'm like, you're not. You're going to learn that through experience.
Yeah.
You're going to learn that over time. And that's not going to just happen over 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. And that's where, like what you're talking about with the commission, that's where the value does come in, because me knowing how to negotiate and knowing the person's, how they're emotionally responding on the other end, and knowing that, hey, if I string this out a little bit longer on the response, it's going to make that person want to come up because they want this home, right? An amateur, somebody who's new to the business, they're not going to know that, right?
The pause is powerful.
Yeah.
The pause is powerful in negotiations, and everything. Why aren't you doing this? Because I want them to come first.
Yeah, and I think that's something for clients that are watching, for anybody who's watching, who's even somebody who's just in sales in general, regardless if it's real estate or not, is that, one, I think that's why it's important to stick with an industry, right, and learn that industry over time, because there is nothing that can replace experience. And experience doesn't always just come from time in the business, because you and I both know, we hear agents say, oh, I've been doing this for 20 years, and you look and you're like, well, you've done 6 transactions over 20 years, so that's still not experience.
Correct.
Experience is a combination of both time and the number of transactions that you've done, right? And because it's practice, it's the reps that you're putting into that work. So
like how you did that little gym analogy.
Yeah, you like that?
You like that?
I'm always tying in the gym. I'm always tying in the gym analogies.
It's putting in the reps. But then if you go back, you look at our business model. You've got the attorney who's going to charge you $1,500. He's not going to touch the whole deal.
Yeah.
You want the partner or the junior associate is going to do all of the research, and he's going to bill you at $500.
Yeah.
But if you want Chesnoff to get you off of something, I will write that check.
Yeah.
Chesy, get me off.
But I think that's also important for for agents to understand that when you're getting into this business, that's why it is so important to have a mentor. It's important to join a team. It's important to learn from a senior agent and work with them. Don't be afraid to, I tell the agents all the time, even the ones that are on my team, sometimes they're afraid to have me. I don't know why. They don't want me on the call. They don't want me to come with them to the appointment.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, they want to feel like they want on their own, and I can totally appreciate that. And I used to be the same way as a salesperson, but I learned, like when I was with Florence and Ivan, dude, the first 2-3 years, I wasn't ashamed. Every single transaction, because first of all, if I'm truly doing what's best for my client, I'm realizing I'm not the best yet. I know I'm not the most experienced. I know I don't have the experience to handle this transaction yet. But what I do know is that Ivan or Florence do. And I'm going to get them on the phone, and I'm going to let them negotiate the deal for me, because at the end of the day, I still win, right? And that's what I think a lot of agents entering into this business, or any sales experience, or anybody even entering into business, I think the thing to understand is don't be afraid to listen to people. Don't be afraid to let somebody else help you, because at the end of the day, you're just trying to score the points and win the game.
That's it.
So,
just want the W.
I 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 don't need my name tied to it.
Yeah.
6 months ago, I went to Newport Beach, right? This young agent reached out to me, and we're sitting in there talking, and he drives 45 minutes from outside of Newport to work out in Newport Beach in Lido Island. He goes, I looked at different industries where my income is uncapped. Mm-hmm. He goes, I was doing really well in he was selling security systems, right? Making 6 figures. And he goes, I got tired of it. I knew I was capable of more. I said, that's incredible. He goes, so I drive 45 minutes to work out here at 6:30. And I'm like, why here? He goes, because I meet everybody who lives here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he did a deal for $18 million, and he told the gentleman, he goes, I'm not going to write it. I brought it to you. I'm going to have the listing agent walk us through it, and I'm going to share in her commission. Mm-hmm. But when you redevelop it, I'm going to list it for you. And the guy says, I don't care who writes it, who sells it.
As long as the deal gets done.
I want the deal.
Yeah.
And it's your money, not my money. You split it up however you want to split it.
I think that's where experience comes in again, is that knowing that what's best for your client, not just about, hey, I need to be the one that closes this deal, right? I've shared with a lot of agents, and it throws them off. I'll put the buyer and the seller together. And I'll even propose that to the agent on the other side. And sometimes they're freaked out, like, well, why do you want them to talk? I'm like, look, dude, because I know what's best. I know these are two very smart people. I know that right now it's emotions that are getting in between our negotiation. And so let's just cut through the bullshit, and let's put the two of them in front of each other so that we can come to an agreement. Because our job at the end of the day is to get the deal done, right? For the client. The buyer wants the house, the seller wants to sell the house. How do we get it done? I don't care if I need to bring 50 different people to that meeting. That's what we're going to do to get the deal done. You know?
One of great friends, Dale Thornburg, man, super successful, one of the top sales guys at City Center, bought Sotheby's from Bob Dyson when Bob Dyson sold it, right? Retired in Nicaragua, and he goes, I'm not here to compete with anybody.
Yeah.
He goes, if I'm in competition with you, Rich, then my clients lose.
Yeah.
He goes, we're here to cooperate.
Yep.
And if I remove my ego and think about my clients, he goes, how many times do you sign that purchase agreement?
Never.
Never. He goes,
Never.
Take your ego out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He goes, you want to prove people how smart you are? And I had this young agent, we were doing a deal, and he made some missteps. And I called him, I'm like, why are you being an asshole?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, it's my second deal, and I know who you are. I said, what does that have to do?
A little intimidated.
What does that have to do with the deal?
Yeah.
I said, if you had called me and said, Rich, this is my second deal, I might fumble, I might have some missteps. Could you help me out?
Yeah.
I would have helped you out. Now I'm holding you to the line, and your clients are going to lose their earnest money.
One of the greatest things I ever heard when Florence passed away, somebody that got up and spoke at her funeral, and it was an agent from a competing office, and she said the one reason she would never forget Florence is that when she first started out, and she was just getting started, she didn't know how to tell Florence that she didn't know what she was doing, and Florence caught on very quickly.
Yeah.
And Florence pulled her to the side and said, hey, look, at the end of the day, I want to get this house for my clients, and I want to get the deal done. And I've been where you were at before and knew, and let me help you. And Florence helped walk her through the deal and put the deal for her and her client, and helped her with the paperwork and everything when her own broker wouldn't help her. And everybody kind of questioned, when Florence would talk about that, Florence would say to us, hey, don't fight the agent on the other side. If you know that they're new, like I hear all these comments all the time from agents, oh, these new agents, they shouldn't be allowed in the business. And I think, well, dude, first of all, we were all new at one point, right? So don't forget that. I also love when they're like, oh, they shouldn't allow these bartenders and everybody else. And I laugh because I'm like, well, I was a bartender my first year of real estate, and I was doing other jobs and surviving. I wasn't a full-time agent. I know full-time agents that still don't return their phone calls. So it doesn't matter if somebody's full-time or part-time. But I always thought that was such a great lesson from Florence, is like, don't be afraid to help the other agent on the other side. You don't know where they're at. And at the end of the day, and that's where, again, like you'd mentioned about egos, like too many of them let their egos get in the way of like, I've got to prove myself or who I am. But if you were to like think, is this the best situation for the client, what I'm saying? Is this the best thing for my client to help them get what they want? 9 times out of 10, most agents would probably say, no, it's actually not the best thing, right? I should probably keep my mouth shut and just have a conversation with the agent and keep it cordial so that I can get this deal done, because this is the house my clients really want.
That's it.
So,
I'm not here to compete. I'm here to help my clients, here to have a good time, and move on to the next one.
Exactly. Well, awesome, dude. Well, I appreciate you doing this today. And anything else you want to leave off with at the end here, Rich? A little Richism?
Little Richism. So I was at a dinner, and this young lady, she was a congressman, pulls me over. She goes, hey, people are talking about you. And she goes, if you could give me something, what would you, what's the one thing you would change, or what's something you would tell yourself 20 years ago? And I wish I would have dreamed bigger. Don't let your imagination be your limitation.
I like that.
You like that?
I like that. Don't let your imagination be your limitation. I'm going to write that down today.
That's a good one.
So that's a really good one.
Just give me credit. After the second time you said it, it's yours. Just give me credit the first 2 times. So you can use it on your next podcast. Let me tell you what I've been told.
That's going to be the name of my podcast now. I've been looking for a name besides just my name. I'm like, shit, dude.
You're welcome.
All right, man. I appreciate you today, brother. Thank you for being a part of the group as well. We love having you here, man. And
hey, kudos to you.
Thank you.
If anybody's watching this, they want a safe space. They want a culture, a fit. Darin, you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
So anybody coming out, just make sure you use me as your sponsor to come in so you can join the office. Sorry, talking about me again.
Do you use the code RICH20? No,
Hashtag.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks. Have a great day.